Greetings brothers, today we're looking at the 8 best HQ units that you can field for your Blood Angels army in 9th edition. So I wonder just how many of our named characters are going to make it into our top 8 list. Make sure you watch the whole video to figure that one out. So I'm John, the Blood Angels Commander. Welcome back to the weekly tactics video. Thanks to all my regular viewers, and if you want to get weekly updates on Blood Angels, then you know what to do, hit that subscribe button. So number 1 is none the less than the Chapter Master on the bike, and he is a captain on a bike, upgraded to Chapter Master with a Thunder Hammer and an Infernal Pistol in at 165 points. He is given the Angel's Artifice to give him that +1 toughness, +1 wound, 2+ save. He's also got the Warlord trait of Gift of Foresight, so reroll 1 hit, 1 save, 1 wound every turn, potentially giving him 10 rerolls per game, which is pretty good. He has an other upgrade, which is the Angel's Exemplar, which lets him take Artisan of War as a second Warlord trait, and from that he can take that Adamantium Mantle, giving him that 5+ Feel No Pain. He also has a 28-inch advance if you need it, and he is armed with a twin bolt gun. So the main strength of this character is his crazy survivability, like toughness 6, 7 wounds, 2+, 4++, 5 triple+, and 1 save reroll each turn. He can also use his hit rerolls on that Infernal Pistol and his wound reroll if you want to really sort of guarantee a good punch from the Infernal Pistol. They can obviously be used on this Thunder Hammer as well. He has synergy with a lot of our units due to his Chapter Master buffs, buffing either core or characters with full rerolls. Also synergizes with the Sanguinary Guard and potentially deals out 18 melee damage every turn. I've been running this guy in multiple battles now to great effect. I highly recommend you can try him if you can find yourself an older captain to make a conversion for. When I'm taking my Chapter Master onto the gaming table, I like to make sure he's on a high quality, durable neoprene gaming mat from the UK's #1 supplier, so check this out in this perfectly nailed transition. When you're looking for your next gaming tabletop map, why don't you start by looking at JW Gaming? The link is in the video description. This is the lava map. It's actually pre-cut to 60 inches by 44 inches, so it's perfect for your games of Warhammer 40,000. We're going to be using this on the channel on our Monday night army games. Obviously tonight we're at Blood Angels against Sisters of Battle. So come, check out the games, check out the map, and if you want to buy one of these, then you'll find that in the video description below. Nailed it! Number 2 is our Sanguinary Priest with his jump pack coming in at 135 points. He is a fast moving, very reliable healer with great potential, upgraded with Hero of the Chapter or Warlord to give him that selfless healer, which basically means he can revive 1 unit every turn for free. He can also be armed with Teeth of Terror to boost him up to 8 attacks with sort of decent damage. You can maybe take Visage of Death or Armour Indomitus if you wanted to make him a little bit more survivable and add some utility to him. He also grants that 6+ Feel No Pain bubble to infantry and bikers within 3 inches. So the 2 real strengths of the Sanguinary Priest are, the first is the Blood Chalice, where you can put a core or character unit into Assault Doctrine from turn 1, giving us the additional AP and the additional attack from Savage Echoes. You can also pay 1 CP to use this a second time on another unit if you want, which is very, very powerful. However, if he is also the selfless healer, then we get to revive 1 model, be it an infantry or a biker, every turn. Note, he cannot revive Invader ATVs, but he can still revive attack bikes with multi-meltas. And then he can also heal 2 other units for a flat 3 damage, again, infantry or bikers. So a lot of healing potential and revival potential, and also that early boost to damage output. So Sanguinary Priest right now is core in a lot of the army lists we look at every week, and I guess he is really one of the top. That's why he's in here at number 2. Number 3 would be our Librarian with the jump pack, upgraded to the Chief Librarian. So for 140 points, he's a very fast moving Psyker who essentially knows 3 powers. Now all 3 can be taken from the Librarius discipline, and you'll be able to cast 2, and you'll be able to deny 2, and you'll get +1 to his denies from Psychic Hood. By being made the Chief Librarian, he can also take essentially the Psychic Mastery trait to essentially give him +1 to all the Psychic tests if you do pick him as the Warlord or for a Hero of the Chapter. Now, while primarily this guy isn't a combat character, he can be a little bit used in combat with his Force Sword if you desperately need it, and if you do actually need to take a power or a 4th power, or you need 1 power from the Sanguinarius discipline, you can do this by taking the Tomb of Malachor, as that basically lets you take your 4th power from either discipline. So his real strength is, you know, reliable psychic tests with a +1, the fast movement from his jump pack. He can take stuff like Null Zone to remove invulnerable saves of the enemy. He can take Unleash Rage to give those Blood Angels core units the much needed exploding 6s. You can also take Veil of Time to let us fight first. I mean, I've actually done a video on this utility librarian and he really is a top pick. So I'll put that up above so you can click on that if you want to know more. But he is super mobile, he can dodge combat if he's well screened and positioned, and overall he will just add a lot of strength and depth to your army. If you're getting any value out of the video, please hit the thumbs up button. It really helps the channel out so much and it's very much appreciated. So number 4 is our Primaris Chaplain on a bike, coming in at 140 points, plus 25 from becoming the Master of Sanctity, and then if we take him as either the Hero of the Chapter or the Warlord, we can essentially take Wiserator. That gives him both his Litany casts on 2 pluses. Now, armed with a Relic Crozius, the Benediction of Fury, and combined with Mantra of Strength, we can essentially have a Strength 7, -2, 4 damage weapon, and then every 6 on the wound roll will do mortal wounds. So he can be insanely damaging. So with some other key Litany casts, such as Litany of Hate for the melee rerolls, or Litany of Faith for protection against mortal wounds, or the Canticle of Hate for increased charge distance, you know, he is also really survivable with his Toughness 5, and 7 wounds, and a 3+ and a 4+ invulnerable save, and then he also has access to Transhuman as he is Primaris. And then finally, like, the maximum melee damage he could do in a single turn is essentially 28, and that is, you know, before we include those mortal wounds from your 6s to roll. So, you know, arguably he's one of the most damaging characters in the game for Blood Angels in 9th edition. And that 4 damage weapon is going to be really useful against units like Death Guard or Dreadnoughts that have this new like -1 to all damage. So in situations like that, and then combined with the previous character, the Null Zone, he can do a load of work for you. So definitely check out the Primaris Chaplain on a bike, and also his model looks super badass. So that's one of the reasons that he's in this top 4. So number 5 is our Librarian Dreadnought, and he is interesting melee focused Dreadnought who can move 6, he can then fly 12, and then he can charge 12, potentially giving him like a 30-inch threat in turn 1. Now the 2 powers we obviously have to take to really make this reliable is Quickening and Wings of Sanguinius, and Quickening lets you reroll charges and gain D3 additional attacks. So right from the beginning of the game, this guy can be buffed up to pretty close to 10 attacks, all of which will probably be wounding on 2s because it's going to be Strength 12 with a +1 from Red Thirst. So his only real negative aspect is his 3+ weapon skill, which can be buffed or countered, I suppose, with like the Chapter Master rerolls that we just talked about a little bit earlier. So comboed with Blade of Sanguinius, you know, you could pretty much chase down an enemy character across the board if you kill him with those 10 attacks. And basically wounding on 2s, they're all flat 3 damage, one of which with the halberd will be D3 + 3. This guy can potentially do 33 damage in a turn. There is other ways you can buff his weapon skill, such as if he was going character hunting, we could give him Champion of Humanity to give him +1 to all his hit rolls. And, you know, with Duty Eternal, Toughness 7, Smoke Screen, he's quite difficult to bring down quickly, and you know, there is other ways you can make him even more survivable. I've run him a few times with Iron Resolve, and that basically puts him on 9 wounds with a 6+ shrug, and generally I think this is a great character. I've used him a lot, I'm not using him right now, but if you've not got a Librarian Dreadnought, definitely consider them. He's a great character, and I've done a few different videos on him which you can definitely check out up above as well. The awesome folks over at Element Games have made some bundles based on some of these top HQ choices, so you can check out the Blood Angels Commander HQ bundle now and get a great discount of 18% if you're in the UK and you want to pick up some of these models. So number 6 is our Death Company Captain. Now I've chosen to put mine on a bike and arm him with the Teeth of Terra, which is an upgrade for his Chainsword. He's also got the Imperium Sword Warlord trait, and then he's also carrying a Storm Shield, and I guess what that means is he has 11 attacks in combat. When Savage Echoes and Shock Assault roll round, he's at Strength 6, it's -3, and it's a flat 2 damage. Combine this with either the 20-inch Turbo Boost or a 12-inch pre-game Forlorn Fury, and then its normal 14-inch movement. This biker can engage infantry squads very quickly and do a lot of damage. So let me tell you about his strengths. He is very survivable. Toughness 5, 6 wounds, 2+, 4+ invulnerable, 6+ feel no pain that can be buffed from refusal to die. He can also use his death visions to essentially get a 3+ invulnerable phase for the turn in which he attacks. Now, the interesting death vision on the Bridge of a Vengeful Spirit. Essentially, for every 5 enemy models within 6 inches, you add +1 to his attacks. The most I've had out of this is 13, and when you play the death vision, you do reroll all misses. So potentially 13 attacks, rerolling all your misses, and then probably wounding infantry on 2s, like I mentioned. So, you know, infantry shredder, 100%. Expect to take out like a 10-man squad of Primaris Marines in a single turn, and or just about a 10-man squad of anything. Could be very effective against big Necron blobs. When I used it against Sisters of Battle, it was absolutely brutal. So really fun captain, and having that 11 attacks base later in the game is very, very strong. So sneaking in at number 7 is our first named character, and that is Commander Dante, who currently comes in at 170 points. Now, Dante is more of a force multiplier than a combat character, but if used right, he can provide a good amount of value. You know, he grants you an additional CP for including him as your warlord. He does have that +1 leadership aura of 9 inches, which can combo up nicely with something like Oath of Moment. Once per game, he can either use Angel's Sacrifice or only in Death as Duty End for 0 CP, so it kind of always means that if he is in combat, he will always get to fight the enemy, just cannot kill him off, and you don't have enough CP to Death as Duty End. And then with the Death Mass of Sanguinius, he is -1 to hit in both range and melee. So some people really like this. I prefer the higher toughness on the Chapter Masters on the bikes, but some people like the -1 to hit. I just think there's a lot of melta weapons going around right now, so the higher toughness really helps against that over potential -1 to hit. So obviously Dante has access to the Chapter Master rerolls, and then he does have essentially a 9-inch bubble of reroll ones for core units. So 9-inch to potentially give a core character rerolls, and 9-inch for core rerolls. So that's a very big bubble. You know, that's an 18-inch bubble with Dante in the middle of it. His positioning can help you a lot, and obviously comboed up with the Sanguinary Guard, he can do a lot of work on the battlefield. He does have the Deep Strike ability that, you know, characters on the bike don't have, and he can also breach terrain that again characters on the bike can't. So I guess if that's what you're into and you feel you'll get more value out of that, then Dante does just sneak in here. His maximum damage is 16, so is noticeably less than most of the other characters that we've looked at, and his survivability I do think will be a bit less, because obviously some of our other Chapter Masters have ways of getting like Feel No Pains, have ways of getting rerolls every turn on their saves, and these things can really change the course through the longer battles. So as some people really love Dante, then I just want to talk about a jump Chapter Master with a Master-crafted Relic Blade, which could maybe almost proxy Dante's model as if you wanted to do something interesting. So a jump Chapter Master with an Infernal Pistol and a Relic Blade. He could be given the Angel's Artifice, which gives him +1 toughness, +1 wound, and the 2+ save. And if you think about the Relic Blade, it's actually identical to Dante's Axe, right? It's +3 strength, it's -3 AP, and then it's 2 damage. So with the Angel's Artifice, they're basically the same. Dante is -1 to hit, but the Chapter Master that we're talking about here is +1 toughness, so toughness 5 against -1 to hit. It's going to pretty much average out very similar against most weapons. Now, we could give this guy the Gift of Foresight, so we can still have the same reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 save, which potentially adds up to 10 rerolls of his save throughout the game, which I think is pretty huge. And, you know, those rerolls on those key Infernal Pistol shots, if he is in close combat, can make a big difference, especially, you know, hits or wounds or whatever. And then we could also just use Angel's Exemplar to take Artisan of War, and we could Mastercraft a Relic Blade. So one weapon that the Chapter Masters on the bikes don't get, or the captains on the bikes don't get, is the Relic Blade, and this would make a Relic Blade essentially 3 damage. So quite often when we're looking at lists now, we need to have a good number of 3 damage weapons, right? Because there's multiple enemies that can essentially -1 damage, and when you do -1 damage on 2 damage, you essentially half, it's like a 50% nerf to your damage reduction. So 3 damage on some core characters and 3 damage weapons in your army list, I think are pretty important in 9th edition. So if we compare actually the damage output with this guy, with Dante, who we've just looked at, this guy is essentially going to get 2 less hits, but he's going to do 3 damage more per hit. So his maximum is actually going to be 18 damage against Dante's maximum of 16. So he can do a little bit more damage just because he has that 3 damage weapon, and he's going to get to reroll 1 hit and 1 wound in every turn. So that's essentially 10 rerolls throughout the game. So just expect him to do more damage than Dante, and I think he's just as survivable. Obviously you lose just that giant 18-inch bubble of leadership and rerolls, but still, I haven't really had too many problems. Like, I run the captains on the bike and I haven't really had too many problems getting them in range to make use of the reroll auras and the chapter master buffs. So if you do really like the jump pack and it is sort of the more iconic Blood Angel's choice, then you can totally do this, and I think you can do it very well. I mean, there is something to be said, like you could potentially do this with a Thunderhammer and make Mastercraft it for 4 damage, and then just, you know, deal with the -1 to hit, because you've got those free rerolls every turn from Gift of Foresight. So a few different options there with that Chapter Master. You know, he would be 160 or 170 if you did take the Thunderhammer. So either 10 points cheaper than Dante or very, very similar to cost than Dante. And I like this guy, I think, more than Dante, but I am very combat focused with my characters. While I do like to bring some characters that provide utility, I do like getting in deadly with my characters, and I think that's pretty much why I love the Death Company Captain, and I think it's why I love my Chapter Master. You know, that Chapter Master with the toughness 6 that we talked about at the start, and the 7 wounds, you can go toe to toe with just about anybody. So thanks to everyone that voted for this video last week in the community survey, and I plan to follow up on the other video that people asked for, the best stratagems for the Blood Angels 2. That'll probably be coming next Friday. And obviously these aren't only the good options in 9th edition, however I do think that the rest of our named characters in 9th edition are fairly lackluster. I haven't been using many of them. I have a real issue with toughness 4 characters in 9th edition. In the meta that I played, there's a ton of high AP weapons, and there's also a ton of like strength 8 multi-meltas now running, so wounding on 2s for my expensive high characters, especially if they ever get exposed, it's just very, very scary. And I also play against like a really strong Death Guard player, so having my characters on toughness 3 as well, I have a real problem with that. You know, everything the Death Guard are attacking them with is like plied weapons, rerolling 1s, and if they're wounding all the time on 2s, you know, it's just too much damage coming in for me to be able to really effectively deal with. Now, I play Blood Angels different, I think, to a lot of people, and if you watch the battle reports you'll probably see that I play very defensively and then sort of like really always spike my power in turn 3, 4 and 5. And so personally I'm actually running a Librarian in Terminator armor, and I'm using the Tomb of Malachor to give him the wings. He doesn't actually have a jump pack, obviously, being in Terminator armor. So I'm playing a little bit differently than, you know, what most people are doing, but I think these are the top 8 probably in the current meta. These are the ones that you'll see in the tournament lists, and at the moment, yeah, regular characters, they're just not quite cutting it in terms of named characters, and I think Dante only just snuck into this list because people are really still getting value out of him as a force multiplier, but in terms of raw combat, he's really fallen off, and yeah, I mean, he's just, in my opinion, he's just not survivable enough for the 170 points you have to pay to take him. So leave us a comment if there's any characters or HQ choices that you disagree with that we missed, or that you want to just let me know that I should have maybe checked out, and let me know what you're running in 9th edition. Did any more of the named characters make your lists? If you want to support the channel, you can check out the links in the video description below, and we are now on Patreon, so for the price of a cup of coffee you can join us, and your support would mean a lot. We know we're trying to level up our live Monday night show, we're improving our show on Sunday, and we have the various hobby hangouts every week, so anything that you could support with would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. By the blood are we made, brothers. Peace.